All right. It is Wednesday, July 16th. It's 4 o'clock. And it's time for your regularly scheduled APCHA board meeting. First item on the agenda is roll call.
Okay, I'll go online first. Kelly? Can't hear her. Okay. Can we hear them? We're working.
Nice to see everyone.
I hear something.
I heard it. This is very, very.
No?
So maybe,
How about now?
Yeah. Turn her up.
Yeah.
Careful.
that's, yeah.
He said it, not me.
I
Okay.
can be loud. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, yes, I'm here and I just want to apologize. I had hoped to be there in person and we were up in the Crystal River watershed, even way past Marble on site visits today, and I barely made it to my computer on time. But nice to see you all.
Great.
Do that on e-bikes? Sorry, that's an
We had
inside
some
joke.
four-wheel drive.
Was that about the resort with cat skiing up there?
No, it wasn't. That is a Gunnison land use policy issue, which I am also interested in learning more about.
Okay. And the next on Zoom is Christine.
Hi.
Okay. I think, is Peter on?
Peter's
Peter?
there, yep.
Hello.
Okay. And Scott,
Here,
Carson,
here,
John,
present.
and John.
Here.
All right, all board members are, well, Francie's not here. But,
Right.
all of the board members are present. Do we have any agenda amendments? I don't think we do. Next item on the agenda is public comment. Do we have anybody in the room, public comment? We've got hand waving.
Hi.
Welcome.
Hello, everybody. I am Jenna Moe. I live at 124 Forge Road in Burlingame, Unit 101. I know many of you. Nice to see you. I'll start by saying thank you. We love our employee housing unit and are so happy to be there. So thanks. And we have been in the process of trying to figure out if we can expand our unit. So my understanding, and Matthew, I have an email from you asking if I have those provisions that show that some of the units in Burlingame are zoned for expansion. I did physically see them at one point, but I haven't found them in my inbox, so I'll keep looking. But there are 15 units, I think it's 15, in Burlingame Phase 1 that were built and then rezoned for expansion. We have like a strange bonus room with a low ceiling. And we went through the process with the city to obtain permits for the expansion, and we are very close to having those finished. The permits are done. We just need to pay the final fees, and the City Council, thank you, has been working with us to figure out maybe an amendment on what the permit fees will be based on it being an employee housing unit. And so pending that revision, we'll pay the final fees, we'll have the permits. But the kind of blockade that we've hit now is that the quote for the expansion is significantly more expensive than like if we added that to the value of the home, we would exceed the cap of a category 5 home to sell. And so we would eat the costs, significant costs, like 200 grand plus of the expansion, and not recoup that when we sell. And what we're trying to do is add a bedroom and a bathroom, which I think meets a lot of goals of adding bedroom count to town and improving the units so that more people, with different family sizes can apply and live in them. And so what I'm curious from the APCHA board, if there's either a credit for self-funded expansions that's possible or a possibility to review the cap on the category 5 sales price. And so that is what we're interested in figuring out, simultaneous to working with the city on the permitting fees. And we're prepared to self-fund the expansion, but just want to know that we won't lose all of that one day when we sell.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Jenna, I don't have, I mean, we talked about this at one point, but I don't have. any
Yeah, we
input.
talked about it last week, and later on in the meeting for the work plan, there is an item there to discuss if you guys want staff to look at it, program to recoup cost of physical additions to properties, i.e. extra bedrooms. So there's so you can look at that later on in the meeting as well. And we sat down with Jenna and looked at, we can give her credit from going from a 3-bedroom to a 4-bedroom. That only adds, I think, just $11,000 or $12,000 to the maximum sales price of her property. And then we also went through the capital improvements, and even with the new 10% every 5 years, that doesn't give her much wiggle room as well. So there isn't a provision right now to give her some credit for putting on a whole new bedroom.
And we're a end unit, and we own all the floors, and so it's minimally invasive to our neighbors. We have one neighbor we share a wall with, but the issue is the pitch of the roof needs to be changed, and so we have to take it off and put it back on, and that's what drives the cost so high.
Oh, sorry, Kelly.
Hi, Kelly.
Hi, Jenna. Can you remind me what is the max AMI in a Category 5 unit?
3-bedroom,
Max
540,000. I think that was in the email.
Yeah. No, did you ask for AMI or?
Oh,
Yeah, because our categories like tag
Being right.
ranges of AMIs, if I remember correctly. And so I'm just wondering how the top end of the range aligns with like the AMI of a 4, or 5 or more person family household is what I'm wondering.
I know that for they look up that number, for our neighbors across the street who live in single-family homes, the starting point to purchase is significantly above where we could sell at a Category 5, and so there's a pretty big gap in the RO units versus the top of a Category 5, and ideally, we transfer into a RO unit or free market one day, but
She's
the
asking for.
So
cap
it's
on 5 is kind of prohibitive to do
Income
that.
is for a Category 5,
5-person is 355,900.
and a 4-person is 329.5.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe just to humanize this a little bit, what's the intention? What's the purpose of expanding your home, and what are your plans?
So initially, the purpose was to, I have a 6 and 3-year-old. We started this process when I was pregnant with a 3-year-old. And the initial purpose was to separate the kids and then have a room for the grandparents or a live-in au pair or nanny. Now the boys share a room, and we have the extra room for grandparents or nanny when they visit. But as the kids get older, it would, be nice to separate them. But honestly, the bonus room, my husband and I are both 6 feet plus, and we can't stand up in there. And the kids are going to be tall too. So as soon as they reach a certain height threshold of about 4 feet, we are really limited in how we can use that space. And it just feels like wasted space. Also would love to be able to rent out a room in the summer to, interns at the Institute or music festival and school students, or have a live-in nanny or something at some point. But we could use the downstairs bedroom for that, and then have the upstairs bedrooms. But with all 4 of us upstairs and that slanted ceiling, it's a pretty tight fit. I know lots of people live in more cramped spaces, so it's not an urgent thing, but it's something we'd like to do. And I also feel like in terms of increasing bedroom count and bettering the unit and building more equity so that when we do move out, we're prepared to purchase the next place that keeps us in this valley. That's part of the incentive.
Yeah, so I just, full disclosure, Jen lives a couple doors down from me, and I've talked to her about this. But I think we've got a few of these units that are already zoned for expansion, and the cost to add a bedroom is $11,000. It just doesn't, to me, that doesn't feel like that's meeting the spirit of getting these units, rezoning them at the time that they were done. So you know, is it 100%? You know, probably not. But certainly I think that in this instance, we've got somebody that's willing to fund the whole, that is going to fund the improvements to the APCHA property. There's no cost to APCHA. And, you know, if in the end they spend the money on this, even if the credit is, the max sale price is given to them, that doesn't necessarily mean that when they sell that somebody would pay that, right? It still would go to a lottery, and ultimately if there wasn't somebody bidding at the highest bid, it would go to the highest bidder, right? So, you know, I look at this and I think we've got people that are willing to put money into APCHA units to expand the program at no cost to APCHA. I think it's, you know, we should try and work with them and encourage that.
I think it's a win.
I mean, I tend to agree. I think that we shouldn't fully ignore the cost to the next resident, because
Right.
there's potential
Sure.
added cost in an affordable housing program. That is something that we as a board are kind of tasked to
Well,
pay
it sounds like
attention
we're
to.
gonna have discussion at some point tonight to talk about it. So,
You're on the
thank-
work plan.
Thank you for the comment,
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Okay. And I don't stay for that, right?
You want to?
If you
You
really
can,
want to.
totally.
Love bureaucracy.
I need to get home to the kids because I promised my husband I would, but I will read the minutes if I can, and we'll come back if I need to. And this isn't a giant rush, but it's something that we'd like to do, especially after paying for the permits. We'd like to see it through. And I think that, you know, if we know that we won't recuperate the costs, there's less incentive to move out and just live there for a long time. And if we can recuperate the costs, there's more incentive to move out when we don't need the space and make it available to somebody else who might want that kind of space. And I think, like Carson said, it's confusing why it would be zoned for expansion if there isn't a mechanism to expand that makes sense financially. And I don't know why it was zoned that way. But when we moved in, the previous owner had been asked to leave, and so we spent that 10% right away to even get in the door to have it be livable. So we kind of used that up right away. Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate what you guys do.
Appreciate it. Next item on the agenda is board member comments. I'm gonna do just what Cindy did and start online with Kelly.
None currently. Thank you.
None currently. Christine.
I don't have any, thank you.
Peter.
Nothing tonight, thanks so much.
Whoa. That guy. Chris. Scott. Close.
So close.
I think Chris.
No worries. I don't really have many comments, but in the effort to keep this short, because I think we have some meaningful conversations scheduled for the end of this meeting, I submitted a renewal application to stay on the board after this term ends in August. I don't know exactly if that's going to go through, but I just wanted to say it's been an honor to sit with you guys and have these discussions. I've learned a lot, and I'm really hoping that I get back in and have the opportunity to continue working with you, as well as with staff and everyone who's involved. So thank you all.
Carson.
No comments.
I have no comments. John.
None tonight.
Wow.
Good. Keep it moving. Matthew, you're on the hot seat, buddy.
Hi.
Oh, Kelly, sorry.
I knew something would pop up, but Scott, relative to your appointment, the BOCC decided we'd be happy to renew your appointment. I don't remember if you were a joint appointee, but I thought I would just update on that conversation.
Awesome. Thank you.
Cindy, do
Kelly-
you remember?
They're all joint, right?
Kelly, just to let you know, there is no more joint appointment. It's the community members, so it's both you and the city that, on all of the community members decide.
Yeah, okay. Well, we made our decision, and we'd
Great.
be happy to have Scott.
I'll check,
remain.
I can
Thank you,
check
Kelly.
with the city.
Okay.
Matthew.
Good afternoon, everybody. Matthew Gillen, Executive Director. I have a list of things to update you on. City Council unanimously approved the APCHA strategic plan on June 24th. So thank you for that. And the strategic plan is going to the BOCC next week on Wednesday Kelly and I chatted with the county commissioners on July 8th in part of our regular update to them, and we chatted about the strategic plan. We also previewed some of the work stuff we'll be suggesting for the work plan and updated them on the essential repairs program, which Liz and Emily had presented at the last APCHA board meeting, and I also previewed a couple budget items. And we do have space on the agenda for the APCHA board for budget, but I'm not going to mention budget and then not tell you. So it's all, we're not asking for any new positions or big expenditures this year. It's going to be the normal bump based on inflation, a little bit extra money for the essential repairs program, and a little bit for the running the new website. So no big supplementals this year, in contrast to last year where we had such successes as Emily. So thank you very much for that. But we have specific time coming up with the APCHA board, which I'll go over that in a bit more detail if you want. We met with CORE on July 9th. We've been doing a lot of work with CORE, especially on the essential repairs pilot program, but this was a bit more high level. John and I were both at this meeting, and we want to really institutionalize that cooperation. So we're probably going to have a quarterly meeting just on the agenda. CORE really wants to reach out particularly to HOAs, and we're really going to assist them in doing that. And we are going to have CORE come to an upcoming HOA speaker series probably in October, where they're going to just, tell HOAs everything CORE can do for them, and will help facilitate that coordination between HOAs and CORE. They have a fair amount of money and grants they have access to, which they want to pump into APCHA. APCHA met internally on July 15th to strategize about renewed effort on filling those ACI units. It's a perennial issue. Now, thanks to the board, we have a bit more wiggle room on the hours, so we want to make sure that word is out. And we brainstormed about getting that message further down Valley as well. So Meg's coming up with some copy on that and some ads we can put on. And then again, budget-wise, the ACA fund is kind of not doing well. So I can talk to you about that more coming up in the future, but it's important for us to keep filling those units, and also keep an eye on how much money we're spending in ACA. All the other APCHA funds are fine, but that one isn't doing great, and we're probably going to have a detailed conversation with the tax credit partner.
Is that because of vacancies?
It's because of vacancies. It's not just because of vacancies. Vacancies will definitely, if we can keep it filled, that'll definitely help, but it's not just that. So we can, I'm going to have a meeting with Dawn and probably Pete to really dig down on that.
Go to the investor and they have to put money in.
Yeah, that's the conversation we might have to have.
They get a tax credit for doing that? So they get an advantage to.
Right. Kelly has a.
Kelly.
Can you remind again what the value of the, what would the buyout be if we ever wanted to back out of this?
I'll have to come back to you with some real discussion on that, Kelly. I'm sorry, I don't have that for you right now.
I don't think we have the option.
Yeah, I don't think we do either, but we're going to sit down with finance and go over, the whole thing in more detail.
Just maybe throw out, one of the things that the county has been contemplating, and now that we have with the housing tax, is some permanent supportive housing, which is kind of that closer to the end of the homelessness, the transition from homelessness. And I guess I just wonder if there's a longer term opportunity there for that facility and I'm just throwing this out there. This is not coming from the BOCC, but knowing that permanent supportive housing is something that we've been talking about and interested in and included in their tax that we passed, maybe there's a longer term transition for that property that would include that, and could be funded, whatever the tax credit buyout might be funded for that transition. Is just an idea. I want to just throw it out there for brainstorming. Perhaps align some broader goal, other goals in the community.
I like the concept. Empty apartments, people that need a place. Brilliant. Thanks, Kelly.
But can they qualify? I mean, I'm thinking that through. Why can't you go somebody that's trying to transition? Do
Because
can
they still
get
have
a
to.
tax return.
Yeah,
Can
they have
qualify?
to.
Can
They have to show
prove-
the work, which is the difficulty.
Show the work,
That's our
or-
requirement. It's not CHAPA's
Yeah.
requirement. Our
So
requirement
show the work
is
or have a
working-
job.
Yeah.
What does show the work?
They have to have the job.
Show record of
Yeah.
work.
So if they've got a job, W-2, whatever, paycheck stub, they qualify. I don't know if they file tax. I just know one, and I'm totally generalizing on how somebody goes, from homeless or whatever, but why wouldn't they qualify then? If they've got a job, they're making minimum wage or something.
Sandra goes through it very carefully, and it has been difficult. She's not here, so I can't get into details with her, but we do take every possible opportunity to fill
And is it
those
a
units.
look back on tax
Yeah,
returns?
I think
So,
it's
so
a-
if you-
It's more, what, right now, the CHAPA program is actually going into a different program called HOTMA. Not sure what it is, Sandra could probably explain it to you, but right now what happens is she has to look at what they're gonna be making within the next 12 months.
Right.
so get $30
So
an hour, you're
even though
making
we
60
ask for
grand, you're
tax
not
returns and
qualified.
stuff, she has to look what they're gonna be making in the next 12 months. But I believe the new program, which is supposed to start July 1st, I think that changes, and it's gonna look back, yes. So, I'll have to check with that, but mostly the mostly the issue has been that we can't find, for 2 bedrooms especially, we look for minimum occupancy, we look for a 2-person household. 2 adults make way too much money for ACI and for Truscott Phase 2, both tax credit properties. A single parent could probably get in there. But that's been the biggest problem, is the maximum income level. If everybody just makes too much money for what that level is.
But we'll come back
Okay.
to you
Yeah.
during
Well,
the
I mean,
budget
that was
discussion.
what I thought. If it was a
Yeah.
look back, you're looking at history and not today.
It's gonna
Gives somebody an opportunity to qualify for some affordable housing, have a year, right? They're gonna have to qualify in a year. But that gets they get their feet under themselves, whatever, they make some good income, and then they can go find other housing, I guess, but.
We're looking at different options
Okay.
for that, especially for ACI.
And then we had, for the HOA speaker series, we had another packed house on July 9th. And Molly is going to come out in September again to talk about, we're going back and forth with her, but probably HOA fiduciary responsibilities. And she's also committed to doing a Zoom call in the winter, and we'll do that at a different time. Not everybody can get to these lunch and learns, so we'll try and do that more in the evening, a Zoom call. And we're trying to develop some program where she can have short consultations with HOAs. And we will be, APCHA will be at the farmer's market on August 9th. I sent you all an invitation, and I think some core representatives might be joining us for that. And we have a list of contractors who have worked on APCHA ownership properties in the past, and that's now live on the APCHA website. That's all I've got.
On the list of contractors, we talked about trying to find, if there was any contractors that would be interested in being, exclusive
Yeah.
in exchange for have any progress on any of
We
that?
haven't, that'll be the next steps, but yeah.
I've dropped the idea to some people that I know who work in the trades, and they've been really, really excited about the prospect. But on the other side of it, I think the supply side's a little more difficult.
Right.
Peter's got his hand up.
Peter? Thank you.
I was just wondering if there's an update on the affidavits.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, there is. I checked with Anka yesterday. Let me just see, we're about 70% through, and we are reaching back out to everybody else on that. So yeah, that we are still working very hard on that, Peter. Let me just pull up what Anka wrote. Yeah, we have 928 out of 1,200. So, yeah, and we are reminding people, and we are following up diligently with them.
Where on the website is the list of contractors located?
Emily,
Do you know, Emily?
and everything will be
if you
much
go
nicer
to
on the new website.
If you find the essential repairs grant program page, it's at the bottom,
Okay.
link to a PDF.
Okay, and I just found that you can search the word contractors, and it's the first thing that comes up. So.
And we're having we're having it. Meg's been working very hard with the contractor on the new website, and we're having a design meeting in about 3 weeks, I think. We'll be doing a lot, so they'll be coming up with. They've got some ideas for us, and so we'll be looking at those very soon.
I would think one of the things, so when we looked at, I think when Liz did the not the last update, but I think 2 updates ago, one of the things that popped out to me was the $8,000 water heaters. And so I just talked to a friend of mine who just got a quote for $7,700 to have their electric water heater replaced. I mean, that would be one where, I wonder if to find somebody to say, look, we'll
do all the way.
We'll let you do them all for $4,000,
Yeah.
or right, just whatever it is. But because to me that seems, having done it myself, that seems very high. So I don't know, just something to think
Great,
about.
thanks.
If
Smart to batch it too.
yeah, if we're paying for it,
Feels absurd.
isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Yeah. Same with the electrical boxes that are happening in Hunter Creek right now. There's electricians they know that there's workload, so they're just
Right.
able to jack the price all the way up.
Great, thanks.
Cindy, signing up for notifications, rentals and sale units.
Yes, we do have some availability for rental units at ACI and Truscott Phase 2. What we're doing is we're keeping that sign up on our website. So please sign up for notifications and sign up for that. We continue to go through the list. We do have, it does state in there what the maximum household income is for those units in the ad. And you just have to realize that we have to go by that because of the tax credit portion of that. But they are on our website, so please go to our website for that. We continue to add about 4 or 5 ownership units for sale right now, almost every single week. So it's a lot of people are moving. I asked for a list of what's going on with that, and there are people who are just moving out of the state. They are retiring and moving someplace else. A few people have bought a free market down valley, or they bought something else in another state, so they're moving. So there's a lot of movement that's going on in our program right now. So just really know that please sign up for sales and for rentals because we've got availability.
Matthew.
Did I mention that we're having a coffee morning on August 13th? I did not. I'll send you all an invitation, but now that the front office is looking good again, we're going to do a coffee morning. So I'll send everybody an invitation for that.
And you said August date for the farmers market?
The 9th, Sunday the 9th, yeah.
Saturday the 9th.
Saturday, yeah.
Saturday.
Excuse me. And I'll make sure you all get an Outlook invite for both of those events. And I'm going to go down and get those cronuts again from Sweet Colorado.
Delicious.
Yeah. Thanks, Serena.
All right, is that it for you two?
Yes, sorry.
No problem. Next item on the agenda is consent calendar. The one item is to approve the minutes of the June 18th meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Discussion?
None.
Use AI to take these minutes.
Okay. So Kelly,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Carson,
Yes.
John Ward,
Yes.
John Doyle.
Yes.
All right. The next item on the agenda is public hearing for resolution number 3, series 2025, adopting amendments to the Aspen Pitkin County housing regulations.
And Bethany's back in the office, so.
Oh, Bethany.
I will take it. Good evening, everyone. So yeah, this is the second reading. Cindy walked you through it last time, but just a refresher. APCHA's staff is requesting to change the definition of a dependent to be in line with the IRS's definition, which means a member of a household claimed as a tax dependent by a qualified owner or qualified tenant qualifies. So that's the request. Happy to answer any questions. This was talked about in length in 2024 and as an oversight was missed in the last round. So we want to make sure that this was brought to all of your attention for second reading, first and second reading.
Discussion? Well, I will move to approve.
You need to open it for public hearing, just to be on that.
Public hearing? There's nobody from the public here.
Okay. Okay, now you can make a motion.
Okay, I will motion to approve resolution number 3, series 2025, a resolution of the Aspen Pitkin County Housing Authority adopting amendments to the Aspen Pitkin County Employee Housing Regulations as noted in the attached document. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Roll
Scott,
call
you
vote.
Okay. Roll call.
Yes, ma'am.
Kelly,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Carson,
Yes.
John Ward,
Yes?
John Doyle.
Yes.
Great.
Okay, that passes. Regulations are changed. The next item on the agenda is moving assistance and incentivized rightsizing. Liz?
Let me just get my screen shared. That's on. You want me to scoot? I can scoot. I just didn't know where to go. I'll go right here. Oh, can you let me share my screen, please?
Oh,
All right, great. And just for the record, so I'm Liz Axberg, Housing Policy Analyst for the City of Aspen. And Emily's up here with me today, too.
It's nice to know I didn't have to bring this.
Okay. Present, there we go. All right, great. So today we're talking about a couple potential program ideas. So centered around either potential moving assistance program or some different alternatives to incentivize rightsizing, which we have been piloting for the last couple of years. And so this, so you know, just going into this, this conversation was had at City Council about a month ago, and City Council generally supported most of these ideas, but agreed that this was a program that should be discussed and ultimately have the support of the APCHA board, because at the end of the day, it would be administered by APCHA. Some of these may be even required to be in regulations, but potentially would need the financial support from City Council. And so today the real goal is just discussing the same items that City Council discussed, those right-sizing alternatives, this moving assistance program, and see what the APCHA board's interest or other ideas are around these ideas as well. And so at the end, our main questions are going to be, is the APCHA board interested in any of these? Do you have any other ideas? Is there anything that the APCHA board feels opposed to as well? And then it would be us coming back to the APCHA board at a future meeting with it more fleshed out based on your input and ideas. And Emily and I were working on this after getting feedback from City Council, and so it's a lot of the same ideas that were brought to City Council, but we incorporated some of the feedback that City Council had, but more posed as a question for the APCHA board as a whole. So first, we thought we would it's kind of a general question, but happy to get responses to it as well, because this can kind of guide the policy that we're looking at, is really what the main goal of rightsizing is. Maybe it's all three of these, maybe it's one more than the other, but we talked about it how we feel like the main three are, first, maybe it's filling spare bedrooms, so that could kind of guide the policy in one way or another. Or maybe it's helping growing families that own APCHA right now move into larger APCHA homes. Or maybe it's helping those families who have had children move on or retired and need a smaller place or can't do ownership anymore. A couple other considerations we wanted to bring into this before getting into our main parts of our presentation is on spare bedroom data, which Emily can give a little bit of an update on. And another consideration is that it's just even if we have really good data on the spare bedrooms, it's always going to be a moving target. There's always going to be people moving in or out, kids going to college, anything in that realm. Yeah. And so I believe that we're going to have better data on that as the affidavit concludes. But
Yeah, I was gonna wait until we had all of the affidavits to really look and get a account of this snapshot in time of what the spare bedrooms looks like, and then I can do a little comparison to how it might have changed from the last affidavit when Liz looked at spare bedrooms, I think in 2022.
yeah, it's based on the 2021 data though, so it's quite a few years old.
Been a little while since we've looked at it, and once we get closer to that total number of affidavits, I will look at the spare bedrooms and report back to you.
Yeah, and we also just talked a little bit about what the significance of actually just having, here's the number of spare bedrooms in the APCHA inventory, because there's some units that are like 2 bedrooms and have 1 spare bedroom. And based on like right-sizing goals here, are those really the types of units we would want to acquire? And so that kind of informs any type of policy as well. So just to give a reminder of what the original program looks like, I know the APCHA board just approved a change in the regulations to the program that allowed for this additional swap to happen, but originally implemented 2023 5 maximum swaps through this pilot program. There was also 5 units held at BG3. And so now with that regulation change, we're at 3 swaps underway. And it's just been difficult it's difficult. Like, we have this form, and APCHA has made some efforts to match different households, but people tend to be specific about the types of houses that they want to swap into. It's not as easy as, look, there's this opportunity. Emily can speak to it more because she's been actually in the form and talking to potential right-sizers as well.
Yeah, just as an anecdote, I kind of looked at it today, and I think one thing that demonstrates how difficult it is there was multiple people who selected in this Google form, I'm interested in moving from my current 2 or 3 bedroom place to a 4 bedroom place. And there was only one person who filled out the form and had a 4 bedroom place who was interested in downsizing. And then in general, most people are interested in upsizing, and much fewer numbers are filling out the form interested in downsizing.
And APCHA has made some efforts to try to connect people who have answered the form, right? Like, you've sent out some contact information before.
Yeah, so I think Bethany shared the form, and then people can see who else is looking to swap and what their situations are, and then they're able to contact each other that way. And I think that's sort of happened periodically, and it looked like somebody just recently filled out, so maybe we'll, resend out the form again soon or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so the reason behind today's conversation is how can we up that uptake for right sizing. And it does look like Peter has his hand up also.
Peter.
Yes, maybe we'll get to this, but how much feedback has been gathered in focus groups or however with people with regard to right sizing versus moving assistance?
For public feedback, I mean, yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit with the moving assistance, because that was how that idea originated. We did some retiree focus groups back in the winter, and there were a certain amount of owners, and so I guess I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but a certain amount of owners who were interested in possibly exiting the program, but expressed that it seemed financially hard to do so, and that was the reason behind this potential moving assistance program that came about it. Otherwise, in those focus groups, we didn't talk too much about right sizing, from what I remember.
Because I can gather that there's more people interested in upsizing than downsizing. I'm just interested with that group that you spoke with, the prospect of downsizing into a unit they want versus wanting moving assistance, kind of how people shook out in terms of their interest in. I'm guessing it seems like downsizing less so and moving assistance more so, but I guess we'll get there.
Yeah, in those focus groups, we didn't actually discuss right sizing too much. They were more framed as how can APCHA better support retirees who own, versus which programs of these do you like. Like, we didn't propose the moving assistance program or anything like that either. All right, well, I can keep going. So here are some ideas around alternatives to incentivize right sizing. And obviously, plenty more ideas out there that we are willing to take note of and work out as well. And also, I did include some of the city council's input, but would want to emphasize that none of the bullets are things that everyone on city council necessarily supported, but specific city councilors brought up and wanted to bring or as suggestions to the program as well. So first, let's go through some of the alternatives. So maybe we could advocate to reserve a certain number of units in future city developed affordable housing, something like that. Or just go ahead and offer financial incentives to households who are downsizing, or maybe it's similar but different, is offering to cover moving expenses for the downsizing household. And so some of the ideas that City Council also put out there was how we can better promote right sizing as well. Like, do we need to have like a swap board? People post, here's my situation up on somewhere. Could we just give priority in the inventory for downsizing households as they make bids? Of course, those individuals maybe already are more likely to have higher work histories as well, but it could give them another leg up. Any room for requiring right sizing, which, I mean, from many perspectives seems very difficult as well. But then also, how can we just think about programs that really target homes with more spare bedrooms versus right sizing swaps that maybe cause like one change in net spare bedrooms as well. So, I mean, first off, are there any impressions from any of these alternatives?
The question is, which do we like any of these?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, today it's really just where's the APCHA board on this? Do you all feel like any of these seem like viable solutions? Not? Any other ideas that make more sense? Anything around that realm?
If the question was, should we choose option A, B, or C, my answer would be yes.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, some of these you could be like, we're still going to reserve this many units, future developments, but also through right sizing now we're going to offer this incentive too. So that's...
It seems to me that they're kind of ordered in the most expensive at the top, least expensive at the bottom order here, by an order of magnitude at every step. $1 million for a new house, $100,000 to buy someone out, $10,000 to help them move.
Yeah, but that being said, also these city developments would still be reserved for any like qualified employees, right? So in some ways they're just getting priority, kind of like what we did at Burlingame as well. Right. But maybe there's opportunities like rental and ownership versus just ownership for that. And then also there's no number attached to any of the financial incentives right now as well.
Right.
Peter's got his hand up.
Yeah. I know this isn't going to be very popular, but under the city council input requiring right sizing, I don't think it's unreasonable that at a certain period of time after you've retired and you're no longer working, that you be required to right size. We've talked about, some people say required to move out or sell your unit, but requiring to right size seems reasonable because the deed restriction doesn't permit not working. So I think requiring right sizing is not as harsh as requiring people to sell their units.
Should we ticket people who drive their vehicles with unoccupied seats?
I've tried that.
What's that mean?
HOV light.
Yeah. How do we enforce
Well,
that?
but the government didn't buy their car or subsidize their car.
Didn't subsidize the auto industry.
Peter, I was going to say something very similar. I mean, I'm curious about the city council. What was the city council discussion around requiring right sizing?
I don't recall that we actually had a conversation about requiring it. I think it was just an idea that came up,
It was more just.
and it was sent back here so we could discuss it.
I don't think it's unreasonable. Right? Not to say that somebody is retiring has to move into a studio, but I think if it's one person in a 4-bedroom home, I don't think that it's unreasonable that they look at a 2-bedroom or something smaller.
I understand the point. I did come across this during my campaign where I ran into a couple different older friends of mine, actually same age, but their kids are grown, in college, gone, and I talked to them about right sizing because I knew they were living in units with multiple bedrooms, and their response was, "Yeah, but we like those bedrooms for when our kids and our grandkids come to visit." And I'm thinking, that's what every grandparent wants. That's just a normal response for anyone in their home. So I'm just throwing that out there. That said, I think building a program that targets homes with 2+ spare bedrooms is what we should be pursuing, spending most of our energy. I'm not ruling any of the other stuff out, but I just wanted to share that anecdote.
Yeah, I want to follow up
Just
on
an
that.
idea related to John's point or story there. Maybe instead of number 1, reserve X number of units in the future development for affordable housing complex for right sizing. We have hotel rooms for these grandkids and kids that come back a couple times a year. I'm thinking on this required right sizing. It's for future. So somebody purchasing a unit knows that X number of years after they retire, whenever that may be, that they have to right size. And there are hotel rooms available for their.
That's the trigger, right? You don't have any way to enforce that today, do you?
Right. It's like the HOV lanes in 82.
Right, you've got to put it in the contract, you got to put it in the deed restriction or can we be ruled out by regulation? Once you're in, that's always been the case, right?
I don't know if it specifically states in the regulations, but you'll have an awful lot of people who won't vote for city council or board of county commissioners if you try to change that. I would agree with Peter that if in the future, if in the future you change that and you say now after this date, if you buy, this is when you have to realize that after you retire, 5 years after you retire, you're going to have to either downsize or move out of the program. So for any future, like what he was saying, for any future buyer after that specific date.
Right?
Yeah, because then people knowing will get into it, and then they'll know that they have a certain length of time for sure that they would have to move out.
Scott?
I just want to point out that what we're trying to address here is a split incentive. That there is little incentive for someone who already has a nice house to have a smaller house, and there's little incentive there is some incentive, but it's difficult for the city and the county or APCHA to spend additional, seemingly unnecessary money on housing that we already have and seems wasted, right? And so we kind of have these two different paths here. And I want to start by saying I absolutely recognize the need to clear up unused vacant bedrooms and maximize the efficiency of our housing stock. But I want to pay attention to the other side of this conversation, which is something that you started to bring up, John, which is APCHA was created not to maximize efficiency of housing, but to protect the community fabric of this town. And if we start putting family in hotels or limiting the lifetime of an owner in America to have a home, what you're going to get is a community that becomes increasingly hollow and doesn't resonate with the word community, but is more like a hotel. And we're going to end up being the resort we've all been proud to avoid being for all these years, where we don't have intergenerational families, where we don't have grandmas and grandpas to support our children, so that we don't have young entrepreneurs who are able to have the time to start new businesses and make this town vibrant. So I just want to point that out. You can hear in my voice, this is an emotional topic for me. But it's important that we as a board also pay attention to that other half of the conversation, which is we're here to protect the community.
I would just throw out. I mean, I don't I think it's obviously a difficult topic. I think that we also as stewards of the program, I think we have to be looking at the future. And the reality is this is workforce housing. I mean, that is how you get into the program, is you have to be working. And our own data shows that in 10 years. 60% of the owners are going to be of retirement age. Now, that doesn't mean that they're all going to retire, but I'm just sort of, I think that's why we're having this conversation, right? Is that we acknowledge that there's there's a coming problem, and
sure.
So
all that to be said, I think that a lot of these are kind of addressing the symptoms to a disease, and that we're kind of applying a Band-Aid at the end of the process. So a longer term, more systemic solution, something like seed capital invested upon purchase of affordable housing that grows at a conservative rate in some sort of fund over time and is then available to the tenant upon sale if they meet certain requirements. Say, you got to live and work in the community for 30 years. And if you've lived and worked in the community for 30 years, that, 10% of the purchase price has grown for 30 years. And if you qualify, you sell it, you get that money and you run. You can use it to pay for moving costs. You can use it for buying into the free market or something like that. That kind of a solution is really going to be, at the end of the day, the only thing that solves this long term, in my opinion. Something that's systemic and provides a self-funding mechanism for the people who are in this to have some sort of a spring that launches them out, instead of relying on a board like us to give them money, a structural program that gives them some sort of platform, I think would be awesome. Not to say that
I would
yes to all these. Sorry, Peter.
I think what you're saying, I think, is a lot of financial literacy and helping people plan long term so that they have capital to purchase a retirement home or pay for long-term care and aging. I also think in today's world, people in the free market all up and down the valley are having to downsize as they age because of the cost of maintaining a home. And I don't think it's, most of the friends I have don't have bedrooms, their bedrooms to go home to when they visit their parents after college. And I don't think it's punitive on people living in APCHA housing that they be expected to downsize at some point.
Peter, I hear what you're saying, and I recognize that what we're doing here is kind of the important conversation here is, are we talking about the free hand of the market economy? Or are we talking about APCHA? And I'm glad that you recognize that the free hand of the market economy is leading to a aggressive housing shortage and housing insecurity across our nation.
Is that free hand of the market economy or regulation?
The real estate market's
No, just the lack of housing has a lot to do with regulation too.
Sure, yeah.
I mean,
I agree with that.
I wanted to ask her how long did it take her to get a permit to add a bedroom. I've got a friend that built 2 houses that it took 2 years to get a permit.
She said they started when
3 years ago.
Their 3-year-old, when she was pregnant with the 3-year-old.
I have a friend who had building 2 affordable housing units. Took 2 years to get a permit to build affordable housing to give to APCHA.
Here, and I hear what you're saying there.
Permits and that process is causing much of this housing shortage as anything. I mean, the program has morphed from workforce housing 35, 40 years ago to community housing. And that's not what it is. Not what it was always going to be. Get me a cheap place to live so I can be a ski bum, right? That's what it was.
I mean, I would say go back and look at some of the founding documents and read some of their vision for what APCHA was created for. Go through some of the minutes from the council, and
I've only looked at newspaper articles, but
I would challenge you to go
workforce
back and look at the value and mission statement behind why this
housing,
program
affordable
was
housing.
started.
It was never a community housing, is what I read.
Anyway, all to be said, yes, the free market is pushing in one direction, and it's difficult to find housing. My point is not to shut down any ideas. I think all of these ideas are good to consider. And like I said at the start, we do need to consider efficiency in the units. However, I didn't hear anyone else talking about the other half of the conversation, which is also part of what we've been tasked to do here, which is provide affordable housing to the workforce that supports our community.
I mean, I look at my neighborhood, right? There's 2 or 3 homes for sale. They've sat on the market for a number of years. They're kind of dogs. People have pretty proud of their properties. They think they should get full price for them. You got to push them out somehow, right? And I don't think you can do it through requiring downsizing or rightsizing. I mean, I've been a big advocate of some financial incentive, net bedroom gain, to either move them to a smaller unit or get them out of the program.
Just to be clear, you just said we have to push them out somehow?
You got to figure out how to get them, if they're trying to sell, they're proud of their properties, they have no incentive to move, they're happy where they live today.
Yeah.
But they've listed properties, 2 of them are retired, a couple's retired, great people.
Yeah.
They go camping in Arizona or wherever, a lot, Texas, I don't know where they go for sure. But their unit sits empty probably half the year, whatever they have to be here for. But they've got a big number on it. I don't think it's a great unit, but to get them to make that math problem, that decision, hey man, I can drop my price $100,000 and I can, if APCHA City or whoever pops in $100,000, I can move, and maybe that makes it, appetizing for a buyer. I don't know what kind of activity they've had on the units in Marrast, but I've seen them sit on the market for a long time.
I would agree with you with what I'm seeing at the North 40.
Well, how about I could move into the other program, and that way we can sort of look at all the ideas all together and decide where to go next with the conversation. Because the other proposal, so all rightsizing is for internal movement and allocation of bedrooms. Moving assistance program would be focused on exit of the program. With all emphasis, it would be 100% optional for any owners to take up. And it's basically a cash incentive to permanently exit the program, whether it's like covering moving expenses, maybe with that in mind. And of the originally recommended program components was that there would be some type of means testing to show that it's helping lower category or income owners who are having difficulty affording the price of moving, whether it's, let's say, if it was an example of like a retired homeowner who's trying to move closer to their kids but has a harder time, like in Denver or something like that. When we talked about it with city council, there was questions around, would this be a one-time, like time limited program? Would it be ongoing then to have this moving assistance pot? If all properties would be eligible, and then also if it should be only for those with financial need, or if any APCHA owners should be allowed to take it up.
So this isn't intended for that somebody that's living in a condo and wants to downsize to a 1-bedroom, or this is for you're out, you're moving.
You're exiting the program, and then the board could set different parameters for who's actually eligible to
Try to
take
get you to move
it
in
up.
a 55 and over community somewhere in a couple of years. I'm kidding.
Had we discussed the idea of internal moving expenses, maybe that being a barrier to right-sizing? I mean, have we gotten any feedback about people saying it's too expensive to move to another house?
You heard that
in
much
Aspen?
from right-sizers? I mean, I think there has been some folks who say, like, why would I buy this new house when I've paid off my current one I own? You hear that, but yeah, I'm not sure if I've heard other things.
That's what I think most of it is, or they have, they really and truly, what it is they really have a specific unit or a specific project.
I'm willing to
in
move to
mind.
this specific property.
Yes.
Yeah, or same with, I think, with some of the Burlingame ones, they're just because it's a brand new unit ended up being more expensive usually than their current situation. So tough financially to make that decision.
I'd be in favor of something like this on a, for the trade down. For the person
Like if you're trading?
the person who's moving down,
Mhm.
I'd be in favor of paying for their move, right?
Okay.
When we're paying for $8,000 water heaters, $3 or $4 grand to move in town seems like a deal.
All right, so like the financial incentive for the right sizing, the downside,
Right,
the moving assistance is for the internal movement, pretty much.
Yeah, I think if somebody's moving out of the valley and they truly need help, and there's some sort of, I don't think, the means testing, if you're moving to Arizona to be with family, it could be $20,000. I would almost if somebody's category 3, category 4, I'd be in favor of, if they're gonna go, help them.
Yeah, it makes sense on the way down. On the way up, it doesn't make
Right.
as much sense.
Right.
Agreed.
You should put, that could be a big number.
Right, I want to move to Timbuktu.
Well, but
It's about 50 and over
Yeah.
community in Florida.
And there could be limits on how much is
set a cap
provided
and-
or what's eligible to be included in your moving expenses.
Can I jump in really quick?
Sure, sorry.
I think just to clarify too, some of the idea behind this, as I recall, was not just to give them money to physically move and help them move their belongings, but it could be a big enough. The problem that we're trying to address is that people in some of the lower category units can't actually sell their unit and can't afford to sell their unit for enough money to purchase someplace else. So the amount of this program potentially could try to close that gap a little bit. Someone who bought their unit 30 years ago for $150,000 really can't go anywhere with that. And so I think that was part of the problem that this idea was trying to address.
Well, I think that's that net bedroom gain calculation, right? You're a 1 or 2 bedroom unit, you're moving out of the program, it's a 2-bedroom unit gain or 2-bed gain. Some kind of incentive that helps them find that next, and I've heard it from school teachers too, right? They've lived in certain areas, but finds that next unit, maybe makes it more affordable for them to move out of
Peter's
the
got his
program,
hand up.
retire.
Peter's got a hand.
Peter, sorry. You don't
Yep.
I don't look at the screen all that much. I look.
Okay. Christine was so patient. I'm trying to model her good manners. To address these bullet points, council input, should this be a one-time or ongoing thing, and which properties should be exempt? Christine's point about if it's primarily in the lower categories that people feel more stuck because they don't have enough equity to be able to purchase somewhere else, I would be in favor of exploring this with lower categories. Should it be a one-time thing or ongoing? This is where I think, unless you change the deed restriction going forward on new units that get sold in the future, or units that get sold in the future, it's hard to do as a one-time thing, because everyone buys their unit knowing, well, if I stay in the unit to this point, then I can count on this moving assistance, which sort of defeats the purpose of it being a one-time thing. I don't know how you do it as a one-time. I guess you can do it as a one-time thing, and then 5 years later, people say, well, everybody else before got this moving assistance.
You're talking inside the program if we moved from a 2-bedroom to a 1-bedroom or downsized, right?
I'm speaking, I guess, more to what Christine was talking about, where people would or want to move outside to be closer to family or lower altitude or better climate, whatever it is, but they can't afford to buy a place outside the valley, and therefore they're staying in their unit and they need some assistance.
Yeah, I guess my only thing was that I think that the delta might be even bigger than we would hope it is. If we're talking Cat 1, in 30 years ago, the home was more like $40,000. And so the difference between, even with the interest over time, the difference between that and the free market anywhere is too much. And we've had this conversation before. If we're talking $30,000, you're not going to get a lot of bites. You'd need 6 figures to really get people out of here. I mean, think about how much people spend to come here for a week. These people own a home here, and you're trying to buy them out to move away forever. That's going to be an expensive proposition in their minds. And so I think that's the biggest challenge we face here, is the magnitude of this number. I think we need everything we can get.
Liz, have you been able to model out, what kind of movement you could create? I guess it's pretty straightforward with offering different amounts and how many bedrooms you would pick up versus with the downsizing or right-sizing incentive versus the moving assistance.
No, I think it's really hard for us to anticipate how many people would actually be interested in opting into this program. And we're still waiting to even know how many, depending on program parameters, that could really influence who's eligible for it as well. So I think it's really hard to say. And the other thing we always would say too is whatever money we put into this, it's not creating any new units as well. It's just shuffling things around, and it's not hard to tell what that actual net bedroom gain is going to be. Maybe if a couple people take it up, that's a few bedrooms. It depends on the program goal there.
Yeah,
then
we're purely philosophical at this point, right?
Yeah, I mean, it is who, I don't think we really know at all how many people would actually be interested in taking up a program like this, or let's say whatever financial incentive comes about with it, just not enough either. It's really hard to say.
Okay. Is that your last slide? Oh, Kelly.
Yeah, after that, it's just really questions, but it looks like Kelly has some input.
Yep, Kelly.
Yeah, sorry, my snack bag's bouncing around. I guess what would be really helpful for me in this conversation is if we modeled out the natural attrition of the program based on what we know of the ages and occupancy of the people in the units. So where, we can say, okay, we know Pitkin County has a really high life expectancy. We know that we have this many people in our owner occupied units of these age brackets and the numbers of them that are working and not working. Can we just start to look at how many, and then in the coming 10 years, can we just start to look at what is the natural attrition set point that we reach? When do we reach when the aging out and the aging in start to look more even? Is this 20 years down the road? Is this 30 years down the road?
That's some high level math.
But no.
Well, I think we know that we know the distribution right now, and I just think it would be sort of to start to be helpful of what is the timeline? Is there a timeline that we're really need to accomplish? Is that is a timeline part of the goal? Is a fixed time that we would do a program part of the goal? And, what does that start to look like, I guess? And are there other policies that sort of help with that? I mean, I'm kind of the mind that, some of the low hanging fruit is just, listen, if you want to downsize, you have top priority for whatever unit you want. I'm not convinced that there's a lot of people who are sitting in oversized units that are thinking about this as a problem. They're just in their unit and they're living their lives, and they don't know that we're spending all this time talking about the status of their unit. They're just, so I'm just wondering, I think there's maybe some easy things that we can do just right now to maybe start a little bit more churn than we've been seeing. I think like managing a board that anybody can access at any time is probably helpful. Giving a priority bid to anyone who wants to downsize their unit size right now is easy enough for us to do. And sure is gonna make some people upset on certain specific lotteries at certain specific points in time. But like that's easy enough for the bigger policy objective. But I'm just sort of having a hard time trying to think about like, well, what is an investment at the beginning of a 30-year home duration and letting that grow look like versus what is paying somebody off at the end of their, what we think should be the end of their ownership duration look like instead. So I think that what I'm asking is knowable information, and I think it would really help us define the problem more clearly.
Yeah, and thanks, Kelly. And sorry, someone's like using a chainsaw or something now. But Emily and I have been talking about how we can better measure the natural rate of turnover in the APCHA program, and we are hoping with like now how affidavits are all through Home Trek that it'll be easier to have that longitudinal data actually on that. And also we do keep track of move outs. How can we get that? So it's a work in process because at the end of the day, there is like all these units will turn over at some point, but these programs just speed it up, right? And so we are talking about that a bit, and we tried to even look at preliminary data from the most recent affidavit too to see like how many homes are there actually with 3 spare bedrooms too, to try to look at what the scale of it is. And
anecdotally, it's not a lot. There's not like hundreds of homes in the APCHA inventory with 3 spare bedrooms. We're talking more like 8 or so, you know, like less than 10 maybe, sort of a thing. So if you do want to target things that we could do for homes with more than 1 spare bedroom, then you're looking at a small amount of homes that we would be targeting.
And that kind of gets to the program goals too of like are we just trying to get families into these bigger homes, or is it just trying to address all these spare bedrooms? Because if it's just spare bedrooms, we're just not sure if there's actually like a massive amount of spare bedrooms, or it's like 1 in a few homes, and usually more just like 1 in a home. Yeah.
And it goes both ways, right? There's plenty of homes out there too with far more people than bedrooms.
Yes, that's but
Peter?
I think this is a great, what Liz brings up is a great thing for the board to discuss, that first slide and what the real goal is. Because, to Scott's point, if our goal is really community housing, if that's genuinely what the program is about today and going forward, and then maybe this community is comfortable with those empty bedrooms or a lack of turnover or the average age of ownership, and that fits the goals of community housing. And I'm not ruling that out. I'm probably more in the camp of we need workforce housing, but I think that hasn't really been answered or isn't clear to me what the goal is ultimately here.
I'll kind of respond quickly to that. I'd like to respond quickly to that, and thank you, Peter. My intention earlier wasn't to say that we don't provide workforce housing, but rather community housing, but instead to say that in our provision of affordable housing, one of our goals is to support a vibrant community, to support a town that is resilient and sustainable. And even if we're just talking economics, if you don't have a balance in your demographics, you don't have a stable economy. You get a lot of really weird things that happen when everybody's 30. And so that was my only point was not to say that this isn't a affordable or a workforce housing program. It was to say that in providing that, we are helping work towards that resilient, sustainable community that will help grow the economy and also make sure that we can all live here long term.
Okay, so your questions on the slide are which programs or program alternatives would the board like information on to further discuss?
Yeah, so basically, like, we're not making decisions today, and we'll come back at one of the upcoming board meetings then to just take some of these ideas and probably just expand it more than just the bullet point it was. But we just wanted some narrow on where the board would like to go with this one of these programs. Whether it's more just looking at what we can do in terms of applying priorities or looking at future developments and giving priority in those, or if you would like to really look at internal moving assistance program.
Well, I'm in favor of the carrot more than a stick. So that's my opinion. So, you know, right sizing, downsizing, incentives, something, you know, move out of the program, whatever, something to help, like I talked about, shaking some of those apples free, that if you know, you have some kind of incentive for people to lower their price, move out. The benefit of that is you sell a home at a lower price point. It appreciates at a lower price point. You kind of reset the price, but somebody's, I guess, eating that incentive somewhere. But
I mean, I like if somebody wants to downsize, I mean, I like the priority and the lottery priority. And the moving assistance. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm going to echo both of what was just said. We need to explore every option possible to incentivize this program to be as efficient as possible. And so I'd love to see this. Like I said earlier, I'd love to see exploration of more long-term solutions, more structural, systemic, kind of part of the whole process, lifetime approach to solving this. But I understand that that's complicated, and I'm talking about things that might not even exist or be feasible.
I think the phrase is, you can lead a horse to water.
Yeah. Nay.
further thoughts from board?
I support what Kelly inquired about with the kind of a turnover model and kind of seeing where we're headed and what the natural attrition is and whatever it may be, so we can better define our goal or better address what in the system may create problems. Again, back to what Scott said, where you have too many people at a certain age that creates problems within the ecosystem of the community. And I think getting the data from the affidavit in terms of the number of empty bedrooms will also help us kind of quantify how big of an issue this is or isn't.
Cindy, would it be easy, or how difficult would it be to pull, so to have sellers of units, and then, like, if there was a chart that was sellers of units, and it was how long they had owned the unit, and then, you know, been in the community, work history, and then age. I mean, is there any way we could look at?
Well, we have all that information
Yeah.
in Home Track. We have when they purchased the unit.
Okay.
We have the ages in the unit. So we do have that information that we can pull from Home Track.
But usually not like if they own like an APCHA property before that one.
Right,
And, yeah.
right. Just that current ownership we would know. So somebody might have been in the system for 30 years, but they owned something prior, and then they got it,
Right.
and then they were able to purchase another unit. It would just be basically on the unit that they currently own that we would be able to pull that information.
Right, but if we had their work history, then we could sort of approximate it, and I think get to what Kelly's question was, is sort of trying to predict some of that.
Yeah. They're both
I will
really
try.
smart on data, so.
I will try.
Take a look. We can maybe come back at our next presentation with some additional data as well then.
Kelly?
Yeah, I just, you know, I really think that this is important for our board to chew on. And, you know, it gets a little bit to the question that Peter has posed relative to the balance of community housing and workforce housing. I am operating under this, like, fear that we have a demographic time bomb like approaching us where we will have very limited workforce housing that is out of balance with what we need for a thriving workforce until this attrition kind of naturally starts to flow better. Given that this is kind of maybe not the start of the wave, but the beginning build of a bigger wave of how this program has been in effect for the last 30 years. So I just think it's really important for us to be tackling what I think may be a demographic time bomb. So the question is, do we have a demographic time bomb? And what is the implication of that on our ability to house workforce? Is going to be really important for us to wrestle with.
You got any comments, John?
For what it's worth, I think it would be fascinating if somebody just was able to study this from a historic perspective and how the program has changed in terms of turnover and demographics, number of families, number of retirees, average age, and like the program has certainly evolved. And it'd be cool to have the context of where we are relative to where the program started and where we want it to go.
Yeah, we got Home Check in 2019, I think, so we're pretty limited in terms of what we have data-wise.
John?
So, yeah, I agree with most of everything that's been said at the table. I think reserving X number of units is a great idea. Offering financial incentives to downsize and covering moving expenses. That's a way to get people moving if there is one. I would like to see more data about how many spare bedrooms there are, just because I think that would help all of us just to know what that number is. And I would also like to say that what we're doing here is super important for not just us, but our housing program sets the example for the rest of the state. And we're in a place where again, our program has been around longer than anybody else's, so we're in a position where other programs will eventually be. So what we do here is going to be super important, like I said, for the rest of the state and their housing programs.
True. Pros and cons of being the oldest housing authority.
Christine, do you have any comments?
No, thanks. I'm kind of in line with what Kelly suggested in going after the easy stuff first, and everything that's been echoed. So we'll take this back to council.
Okay, so I think your last question was kind of answered through the discussion, right?
Yeah, no, and this is great. And just to summarize then, so we're going to come back though to the APCHA board first and bring some more data. We'll talk about that, what we have available right now. And additionally, it sounds like at least I have an idea of a consolidated list of program ideas, whether it's, we can be like, here's like pretty much zero cost-ish, like more like policy types of things, like giving priority in lotteries. But then also, it sounds like we can kind of combine some of the different elements of the incentivized rightsizing and the moving assistance program. So we'll kind of try to pull that together and get your input on that and go from there. So we'll see you in August to talk about HOAs, and maybe we can bring this back in September if there's time on that agenda. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Liz, before you unplug, are you leaving?
Yeah.
Oh, are you staying?
Yeah.
Could you pull up the strategic plan?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And with that, the next item on the agenda is work plan update and 2025-26 work plan discussion.
Yeah, so you have in your packet last year's work plan, and then we also, I pulled out the 4 points from the new strategic plan, and we had a discussion internally, and we had some suggestions which could live under those goals. But this is, this is for the board discussion, so I think we did very well last year on the work plan, and there's a few things we'd like to carry forward. I think the big change I'd like to suggest for the work plan for this year is that we do nestle things under the goals for the strategic plan, just so it's a bit more coherent. And once Emily pulls that up, but it's compliance, quality, community, and leadership. So for compliance, I'd like to put in the APCHA pre-qualification education program, which we discussed at the strategic plan. And then for quality, like we put in there, launch new website, partner with HOAs to access sustainability grant money. That stems from a conversation we had with CORE last week. Continue HOA legal access, capital reserve policy actions, which will stem from the conversation we're having at the next board meeting. And then this is the one which we haven't really discussed, which Jenna brought up today, program to recoup cost of physical additions to properties. And then we had further rightsizing incentives, move-out assistance, rental survey, a few other things there. And leadership, publicize new capital improvement policies. And this is actually another one Kelly brought up, which I want to flag as well, that you might want a more detailed discussion on. Access to APCHA housing for those who work in all Valley public institutions, e.g. Basalt, Sanitation, Roaring Fork Fire, Valley View Hospital, and then Emily's working on a data dashboard. So these aren't things, we actually have to, like for example, access to APCHA housing for those who work in All Valley. This conversation isn't to decide whether or not that's a good thing or a bad thing, or if you want to do it or not do it. This is a discussion. It's like instructions to staff to look at it and come back to you guys and have a discussion and make it. So, so it's a slightly different thing there. It'd be examine that possibility. And the same with program to recoup costs of physical additions.
Well, let me ask you about that specifically, right?
Thanks.
Why, I don't know if they're in a hurry or not, but what is the process? Because isn't that a land use thing with the maximum sales price per category? What is that process?
I don't think so. I think we could, we'd have to look at that, but I think we would build out in the regulations just an adjustment to the maximum sales price. I mean, we set the maximum sales price.
And if that's something where there's a need, why? I mean, it feels like we're pushing that to 26. Why do we have to wait?
No, I mean, this would start in September 25, this
Okay.
work plan. Yeah, so that would be, but I'm not sure why, but we're on a kind of August to August timeline on the work plan. So it would be, as soon as you adopt it, we'd be working on it. So we wouldn't be waiting on that, no.
Okay.
That's when they reconstituted the board, was in August.
Yeah.
That's why
so
our
that must-
terms run.
That must be it. So those are some of our suggestions and ideas based on conversations and based on the strategic plan. But, I'm not sure how you want to have the conversation. If you have other suggestions you'd like to see on there, anything we're missing, things you don't want to have us bring to you to discuss, we had a
Scott?
pretty freewheeling discussion last year, and I'd like to see that again. Yeah.
I think insurability needs to be on our conversation. That we
Yeah.
need to, I mean, like you said, a lot of the different programs around the state and the country and the world look to us for leadership, and there's a brick wall headed towards us.
Yeah.
And we got to figure out how to get around it. Otherwise, they're going to see the leader fall in some way.
And you can't have that conversation without having the HOA
Right.
capital reserve discussion, because
Here.
those are both funded out, the reserves and the insurance are both funded out of dues, and so you can't talk about one without the other.
Yeah.
Three-headed monster.
Right. And then we got fire danger.
And I think that problem alone, right there, insurance and capital.
Yeah.
That's enough.
That's plenty.
Spend
That's
all
it.
year
I mean,
on
you
that,
could put
yeah.
that and probably still not tackle it.
When does the new website launch? It launches this year, right?
Hopefully, yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully. I mean, it's, 2025 money, so we'll definitely spend the money this year and it'll launch. Do you want us to bring to you some ideas for recouping costs to physical additions, and same, do you want us to bring to you some ideas, pro and con, for APCHA housing for all Valley public institutions like basalt sanitation? Kelly, did I summarize that correctly for you?
I think the All Valley Public Institutions conversation is going to become increasingly important.
Yeah.
Because affordability becomes increasingly difficult, and a lot of the public services and institutions that support our economy aren't high income, so they have to be imported. Which means that the people who are a fabric of our community and support us are coming from further and further away over time.
But basalt sanitation doesn't support Aspen. Roaring Fork Fire supports Snowmass, but it's, basalt in Carbondale or basalt.
Let's talk
in Ellsville.
insurability. Let's just take a fire as an example. Imagine a fireman who's fighting fires in basalt and frequently
Well, a lot
volunteers.
of those guys work between both districts.
That's my point.
Right?
That's my
But
point.
they have requirements in this district to have a 12-hour shift or 24-hour shift once a month. So they're in the district. We do a lot of mutual aid calls. So we do mutual aid with both Roaring Fork Fire and Aspen Fire, Carbondale.
Certainly.
The 3-alarm fire, 4-alarm fire if you have one. But, to me, it's you're living and working in Aspen or Pitkin County, you should have priority in some of this stuff. And then, Basalt's working hard to square their problems up. Carbondale's adding housing all the time.
My intention is to represent the community members who have come to this board and expressed it as a concern.
Who has?
We had that lady.
We've had
a lady that was basalt. I think she was basalt
I
sanitation.
think that was
Yeah.
her, Miss Tears.
And she worked for them for 20 years or something. And Kelly.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, thanks. You're representing I think, how the concern began to churn for me, and then for my fellow commissioners when I brought this to them to find out if they had any concern. I don't think we need to get into a ton of detail. I would like it on the work plan for a detailed conversation and discussion of whether we think that the policy is appropriate and how staff should be applying it. I saw additional details on this from Matthew just with questions, so for example, a RAFTA employee, it's less important. The way that it's being applied, I interpret it as being applied now is, even though RAFTA is providing services to Pitkin County and, Aspen Pitkin County, that employee, there's further inquiry as to whether that employee is providing those services to the same. And so there's scrutiny on that employee's location of work rather than who their employer is, that I just think merits conversation for us. We are hamstringing RAFTA's ability to move employees around when they need them if we're telling RAFTA employees in Carbondale that they don't qualify because they're predominantly working in Carbondale. And then what does that mean for when they need them to work in Aspen or other parts of Pitkin County? So I regarded it as like a departure of how I think the program had been applied in decades past, but I want to bring it up for further and detailed discussion with the board. It's a concern of my board about how this is being implemented right now.
I guess one thought on that is, so this would only be public. This would not include like ski company.
I mean, I'm happy to talk about whoever, but the initiating concern was relative to jurisdictions that cross county lines.
I think if we keep it to public, it's much simpler. I think if it goes to private, then that's a different can of worms, and that I know there have been people
Sure.
that have advocated
Yeah, and-
for that same thing. For example, for Skico, I mean, their headquarters, a lot of people are in Basalt.
Yeah.
Right, but it's hard to, I mean, to me, it's hard to argue that those people only working in Basalt are supporting an industry that only exists in Picken County.
Yeah.
I completely agree.
So those are the nuances that I think merit a detailed discussion.
I would say look at the list of contractors we just posted on APCHA and how many of them are in Aspen, and how many of them are in Silt or Grand Junction.
Right.
Okay, so we'll keep that on.
Yeah, and those employees have to show that most of their work is happening in Aspen and Picken County, regardless of where the home base of their operator is. So I think there's just an equitability issue of how we're thinking about this.
Okay. So we'll keep that on there for a detailed conversation. Physical additions to properties, some way to recoup that, some portion of that. You want us to look at that?
For me, hearing her say bonus room and then $250,000 as we're talking about trying to help low-income people move, I suddenly have a very different perspective of the priority level of that topic.
Does it,
Noted.
snarkily, does it increase the vacant bedroom of some unit someday? Probably. Yeah. But, if
Well, I'll jump
somebody
in.
wants-
I mean, the way that I guess I need to think in a more detailed way about that request is how does it either contribute to or undermine the public subsidy that's been already invested in that unit? Like that's what I want to understand a little bit more in terms of whether we like what type of credit and how much and how we think about applying something like that.
Maybe on the demand side as well, is adding one more bedroom going to be a great boon for APCHA, and are we going to get a lot of benefit because we got this one more bedroom? I don't know.
Maybe.
Well, I think the conversation for me is like if you look at the chart, what does the bedroom cost at the lumberyard? Is it
$1 million or something.
a
like
bedroom?
It's $1 million a unit.
that.
It's not $9,000, right? And
No.
that's
No.
and that's the difference between a 3 and a 4. And so to me, this is, that goes directly to the subsidy. And so are these numbers the right numbers? Because the category 5 studio is $560,000 and a 4-bedroom is $125,000 more. I mean, that doesn't reflect any even percentage of the cost. So to me, I think the challenge with increasing these is not having the affordability numbers, because I previous discussions we've talked about how we think that some of the units, or maybe some of the units, are underpriced, and that either the rent is too low or because of situations where you've had 10 people living there versus one person, the price is way higher for identical units next door to each other. So we've talked about that affordability piece. I think it's difficult to make those changes to the numbers absent that affordability data, which I think we're expecting.
I hope the affordability study, I know that
I
it's,
think it's pushed to beginning of next year. Is
Next year?
my understanding.
because we have not looked at sales prices in rental rates in quite a while. And that's one of the reasons why we were waiting for this
Right.
affordability study, so we really could address some of these.
Right.
Because the last time that a real big study was done was when we actually added category 5, 6, and 7. And then we took 6 and 7 away and we incorporated everything into category 5. So category 7 was, category 4 or 5 was increased to category 7 when we got rid of 6 and 7.
So
So, and there wasn't any study done or anything like that. It was just done. So,
So I think the time, I mean, so if we're gonna be working on the affordability stuff, I think that's when you look at these and say,
Exactly.
does this still make sense? I mean, just looking at it, to me, it seems arbitrary.
Based off of a percentage of a median income level, or not arbitrary, but in some way?
yeah, in some way, it was kind of done that way, but it was done such a long time ago that it wasn't, I don't think we used updated numbers to do it. We just started increasing them by 3% or CPI, whichever was less, on a yearly basis. So a study itself with regards to what's going on now was that's why I think some of the rental rates are off balance and some of the sales prices are off balance as well. I would agree. But we need a study to really figure out, can somebody at this level afford a loan? If you have this, this, and this. And we also see that we also need to take into consideration HOA dues, because almost everybody now is paying like almost $1,000 a month on HOA dues.
19 in Hunter Creek.
Yeah. So that's the big, huge thing that we have to start to look at as well.
I guess along those lines, you just reminded me of this. We've had conversations about categorizing people, not units, as a mechanism to allow us to get those people, to give them some sort of financial and economic incentive for upward mobility instead of having a financial ceiling over them. That might be a conversation that we could tie into this. I don't know if that's a conversation that the board would like to have about, I mean, if we're going to be discussing affordability and the numbers on that table, we should be having a broad conversation about our categorization system and how, if it's serving us, I feel. Because it seems to me that we get this aspirational, we're like, yeah, we're going to solve this, we're going to get, at the end of the day, it's like, well, no, it's because it's not categorized correctly. And that's I mean, we did that. So if we were more agile, or maybe it was a more dynamic or versatile system, maybe it would help us solve some of these more systemic problems. So categorizing people, not units, might be a topic.
I think that would come after the affordability stuff.
It would have to,
Yeah,
certainly.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I'm
not ready.
not going to put that on the work plan
Elephant
for this
number
year.
5, we would
Yeah.
need.
Yeah. But, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're still going to talk about it, Matthew.
That's true. Okay, so am I hearing, don't look at that yet?
Well,
Look at it a little bit?
we can't until we have we can't adjust the categories until we have the data.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Right? I mean, so,
We really need that.
we need that study, and if that's
Okay.
not done until next year, again, otherwise, then we would just be, it would just be an arbitrary number.
Yeah,
we're
we would
picking,
just
and
be coming up with
I
something.
think
Okay,
data would be helpful.
okay, great.
That's
So,
a good point.
Although I do bet we could come up with some arbitrary numbers in no time.
I can master a spreadsheet in a hurry.
anything else in particular?
I don't have any comments. I
Okay,
think
great. Great.
cap reserves, HOA stuff is going to be important.
Yeah,
Insurance is going to
yeah.
be interesting.
Great, okay.
I mean, capital reserves, insurance, and then the topic that we had tonight. I mean, those 3 things, I mean, that is a ton of work
Yeah.
right there.
Great, thank you.
More meetings, maybe more regular meetings.
I mean,
If we get more work.
Well, if we need to,
we might have to,
Yeah,
but
that's absolutely,
I mean,
always.
we're going to have fresh data from the
Yeah.
HOAs, and I mean, the time to strike on that is while the data is fresh
Yeah.
and accurate, and
Yeah.
we can help people.
Great, thank you.
So
we'll make
Can
a
I just ask quickly on the
Peter.
HOAs, are we gonna get the capital reserve information prior to the August meeting? What's the timing on that?
Yes. I will include a spreadsheet in your packet with the memo that will give you some of that like granular data that you asked for.
Good on you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't see any hands up, and I know I miss a lot, but that's the end of the agenda. Do we have anything else we wanted to discuss? Any closed door session we need to do or anything? Tom's not here?
Tom's not here tonight.
With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So Scott moved, or
Scott moved, John.
I'll second.
Second.
roll call? Okay.
Aye.
Kelly,
Aye.
Scott,
Yes.
Carson,
Yes.
John Ward,
Aye.
John Doyle.
Yes.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.